What's good, guys? Back at it again. But here, we're on a positive note. We're back at it again for UFC Vegas 99. Alexander Hernandez versus Michel Pereira taking place this Saturday. It's going to be a phenomenal card. 11 fights, though. Hopefully, maybe we could get Abdul Razak Al Hassan and Josh Frem on it. Unfortunately, we lost the Frem fight because he just didn't know how to cut weight. But without that being said, guys, let's go into how we did on UFC Vegas 98. Honestly, one thing I want to mention was we went 9-3 on a 12-fight card. I mentioned how I wanted to go 10-2 earlier this week, and we went 9-3. So for this card, I want to have a little bit of a better statistic. I want to hit more positive fights, and I want to have a better prediction rate for this card coming up. 11 fights means it's going to be a harder to go positive on, but it's possible. It doesn't mean it's impossible. Anything is possible. So going 9-3 is fine. Lock of the week hit. Ramazan. So we are on a 3-fight lock of the week streak. Our bonus hit over 2.5, over 3.5. Some people have no idea what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to the overs, bro, because some guy was telling me, take the under 3.5, take the under 3.5. Little did we know, Royval was going to win a split decision. Hard fought. I had it 2-2 going into the 5th, and then Taisu Taira sold. He gassed pretty hard. And he got fraud checked. Lost to Royval. Who loses to Royval, that's fine. But in my opinion, I thought Taisu Taira should have been able to win that fight in the 3rd round. If you got full back control, if you don't have the body triangle, what is this guy? The Aljamain Sterling of flyweight? If you don't have the body triangle, you can't win the fight. You looked atrocious in the striking department. In the 5th round, you're getting your ass beat. You have the most telegraphed takedowns I've ever seen. But he will be back. I was going to use the lock of the week, and I was going to lock of the week Taisu Taira, so that would have been bad. But without further ado, guys, enough chit-chat. 9-3 is not bad. Pierce, you absolutely suck. You're garbage. That's fine. And I don't know why I chose McKenna. Clint made me choose McKenna, bro. I was on Julia Pilastri, but I chose McKenna, but then I live bet Julia Pilastri, and I hate that because I didn't tell you guys about it, and I couldn't tell you guys about it on Friday. So I was mad. Fuck you, Clint. All right, let's get it. UFC Vegas 98. Pereira versus Hernandez. Let's go. We're going to break down the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events. So without further ado, let's get into it. I wrote notes on this 11-fight card. Hopefully we can get one more fight. After this week, we got Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria. If you guys want me to do an early card predictions for that card, I can easily do that. No ifs and buts about it. So just let me know. Let me know, guys, all right? I'm going to do it no matter what. Robelis Despaigne versus Austen Lane. We have to mention Robelis Despaigne getting fraud checked by Waldo Acosta. Honestly, Robelis Despaigne is just a big boy who can't wrestle at all. This is what I wrote in my notes. Opening up the UFC Vegas 99 fight card, Robelis Despaigne versus Austen Lane. Absolutely 100% the UFC is trying to turn Robelis into a superstar. They're absolutely 100% trying to turn him to superstar. They tried it the first time against Waldo Acosta, but they rushed him too early. The reality is, he fell flat his last performance. He's a massive 6'7" Olympian, Taekwondo specialist. If you watch him compete in Taekwondo, he's wildly fast, impeccable timing. He does get hit because his hands are low. He has a good chin. Either he sleeps you or he gets taken down. In his last fight, he got taken down bad, and he looked atrocious in the wrestling department. No tendency, no urgency to get back up. Austen is a 6'6", former NFL player. He can grapple. He likes to jump, throw a flurry of strikes, then jump backwards. In most cases, he prefers to grapple than strike. In this fight, he has to grapple. Particularly, he needs to grapple. His chin doesn't always hold up. He was just knocked out by Jonathan Denise, who was set to face off against Derek Lewis. They're trying to kill my boy Derek Lewis, bro. I don't know why they're trying to kill my boy Derek Lewis. What did my boy Derek Lewis do to you guys? They're trying to kill my boy Derek Lewis, matching him up against Jonathan Denise. And the least you could do is be in shape for 15 minutes, but he gassed. Heavy Waldo Acosta is good, but he showed how terrible Robelis' cardio is. UFC wants Robelis to win bad. They need him to win. They rushed him early. Now they are trying to reset Robelis, and he's a minus 400. Robelis should be able to find his chin. When we look at the stats and we look at the entire striking department, we have to mention the reach. 84-inch reach to 80. 6'7" to 6'6". Huge guys. 36 years old to 36. Almost same age. But one thing they're very discrepant in is experience. The Muay Thai background for Robelis Despaigne And his last loss being a unanimous decision, the fact that he got grappled, that's something that we could work on, especially in the heavyweight division. We could definitely work on your grappling department, and we could definitely get the grappling better. So without that little smudge on his record, maybe he needed that smudge on his record. Maybe he couldn't go undefeated in the UFC without losing. He had to lose. It was inevitable. We saw Tyson Dida lose his first he lost his donut. He lost his donut to Brandon Royval, and that's fine. Sometimes you're going to lose to the best of the best, and it only makes you better. With that being said, Austen Lane is coming off of a big skid. No contest to Justin Tafa. Rematch, Justin Tafa KO'd him. And then Jonathan Denise KO left hook, but he was controlling Jonathan Denise hard for the entire first round. And then the second round, he knocks him out, and Austen Lane gets knocked out completely cold. And I feel bad for Austen Lane because they are using him as a sacrificial lamb and feeding him to a superstar in the making, Robelis Despaigne. Give me Robelis Despaigne to win this fight by knockout in the first or second round. He usually has a bunch of first-round knockouts, and if he doesn't knock you out, it's because Austen Lane wrestled him to a 15-minute hard-fought decision. Give me Robelis Despaigne to win this fight by knockout in the first or second round. Shout out to the 5% that are choosing Austen Lane. It reminds me of, shout out to Baby Sharp when he posted that boat where it was in the middle of nowhere, and he's like, am I the only guy on this guy? And there was a big-ass boat behind him. And all you can see is all the rest of the people on Robelis Despaigne. And all the 5% are on this little boat. So, I'm with the 95%. I'm going Robelis Despaigne by knockout in the first or second round. Let's get it. Elise Ardelean versus Melissa Martinez. This is what I wrote for this fight. Elise Ardelean versus Melissa Martinez. Now that we have the first... Okay. Oh my God, we have 3 women MMA fights back to back to back. Now we have first of the 3 back-to-back lady fights. All 3 are pretty entertaining, straightforward. However, this one is the most dicey one out of all the 3 women MMA fights. Elise stepped up on short notice. Last fight got a lot of criticism because a lot of people felt that she only got the job because of her followers. Elise. She has a big following on Instagram throughout her social media, so she gets a lot of criticism prior to her most recent fight, saying that she only got her job because of her popularity, and not her fighting ability. But then she showed up and fought her ass off. She is not afraid of a dogfight. She does have 6 losses, but they are good losses. She lost to Weili Zhang, Diana Belbita. She arguably could have won that, and she could have won her last fight against Shannon Banan on short notice. But in this case, Melissa Martinez is the one who's taking this fight on short notice. Melissa is powerful, good takedown defense. Her grappling is okay. She works in some trips, but she does get taken down. She's not good at her get-up game. She's coming off of a 2-year layoff because of a knee injury. Elise had a couple of takedowns in her last fight. She's a dog, constant forward pressure. The takedowns can work in Elise's favor, and I hope Melissa becomes a favorite, but it's not likely. So, when we look at this fight, Elise is the underdog, right? I want Melissa to be a bigger favorite. The reason why I want Melissa to be a bigger favorite is so that I could jump on the Elise train. Melissa Martinez is not that good in my opinion. She's 7-1-0, but when it comes to the experience side, 9-6-0, those 6 losses are some of the toughest girls in the entire strawweight division. The fact that you're losing to Zhang Wei Li means that they fed you to the wolves at the beginning. We have Romania versus Mexico, 27 years old versus 32 years old, 116 versus 113. She's a very small strawweight, 5'2 to 6'4. 5'2 and 64.5-inch reach, and 62 reach for Elise Ardelean. Majority of Tapology is going Martinez. One thing we have to mention about this fight is we got to look at what the odds are saying now. Right now, we have to look at what these odds are saying. Melissa Martinez is minus 166, and Elise Ardelean is plus 130. I'm going to be taking Elise. Not only am I going to be taking Elise, is because I thought she won her last fight. It was a split decision. You could have arguably gave it to her. She's a dog, so it's a very low confident pick, but also this girl, Melissa Martinez, hasn't fought in 2 years. The fact that you haven't fought in 2 years is a bit of a red flag in my case, and it's going to be one of my biggest determining factors. So with all that being said, I think Elise Ardelean can mix in the takedowns, be able to get a girl like Melissa Martinez on the ground who should have a little bit of ring rust, and she should be able to win a comfortable decision, 29-28, 30-27, and 29-28 by unanimous decision after getting her takedowns. She needs to solidify her takedowns, though, and she needs to mix it up. If she's not mixing it up, Melissa's going to win all day. But give me Elise, the underdog, to win this fight by unanimous decision. Jessica Penne versus Elise Reed, who we were just talking about, who just fought Melissa Martinez 2 years ago. Jessica Penne versus Elise Reed. All 3 women MMA fights should go over 2.5. You can parlay all three women MMA fights over 2.5, and it'll probably hit. The UFC is contractually obligated to offer every single fighter in the roster 3 fights a year. At the end of the year, they just throw out offers, and we get random-ass fights and cards like this. This is one of those random-ass fights. Jessica Penne coming back after a full year away, almost 2 years. She's been fighting since 2006, 18 years of experience. During those 18 years, she's pretty well-rounded. Boxing is okay. She comes forward, tries to pressure. If she can get a takedown, that's great. But she has a 21% takedown accuracy. And she's 0-9 on takedowns in her last 2 fights. She's coming off of a loss to Tabitha Ricci, where she looked like she didn't want to be there. Absolutely no interest in that fight whatsoever. But we saw how tough she is. Elise Reed is a busy striker with incredible pace. Decent power, decent grappling, hot and cold though. If you look at her fight history, it's win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. Big upset win over Corey McKenna, who just lost to Julia Palastri Saturday, then dismantled by Sam Hughes. Big upset win over Melissa Martinez. She had a knockdown and 3 takedowns. And then lost to Lana Lookboomy. And then Lupita Godinez, she also lost as well. It's a pretty good loss. I can trust Elise Reed to win. She is the better fighter. She should comfortably win. I'm almost positive a 41-year-old Jessica is not going to perform the way I think she is. Jessica is here for a payday. She's not here looking to grind and win and work her way up to a title shot. Based off of what we saw in her last fight, a minus 150 is decent value. 31-year-old, let's zoom out. 31 years old versus 41-year-old trying to build her OnlyFans. Shout out to all you fucking gooners in the chat. If you want to go goon, you could go goon to Jessica Penne's OnlyFans. But one thing we have to mention, 31 years old versus 41. Give me the 31-year-old to win this fight. Elise Reed, not that very confident. It's a woman MMA fight. Most likely goes the distance. Most likely it's a sloppy decision fest. And most likely it's a bathroom break. With all that being said, I'm going to take the 31-year-old who has a little bit of a higher ceiling in this division and should be able to win this fight comfortably against the 41-year-old OnlyFans model. Let's get it. Give me Elise Reed to win this fight at a minus 155 by unanimous decision. Let's get it. Next fight. Joselyne Edwards versus Tamires Vidal. Oh my God. Who remembers Joselyne Edwards versus Ailin Perez? When Joselyne Edwards gave her the black eye and then they had to schedule that fight and then Joselyne Edwards showed her takedown defense was atrocious. Joselyne Edwards versus Tamires Vidal. Finally, the final last of the lady fights on the card. Joselyne is gritty, good skills, good kickboxer, prefers to kick more than punch. If you can get inside the range, make it dirty, you can have success with her. Her takedown defense is really bad. She needs to keep this fight standing if she wants to win. She's taking on Tamires Vidal, bowling ball Tamires Vidal, former soccer player, BJJ brown belt. She immediately looks for takedowns. She pressures forward, big overhands, pressures to the cage for control, and then she looks for the takedowns. Once she gets you on the ground, she looks for a sub. And once it's on the ground, her striking is not that good. She's tough. She eats shots for a takedown. She's coming off back-to-back losses. Most recently, her loss to Melissa Gatto, where she was taken down twice and finished by a jiu-jitsu nerd. Tamires has a logical path to victory, pressure, and takedowns, but she's a bust. Losing to Rendon was surprising, then getting knocked out by a BJJ specialist is a bad look. I think Joselyne is the overall better fighter. I think she dances on the outside, lights up Vidal's legs, and I think we have another safe over 2.5. If you give me all the women fights over 2.5 and it hits, that's a perfect parlay, in my opinion. I think this one goes the distance as well. Not only do I think it goes the distance, but I think Joselyne Edwards at a minus 215 versus Tamires Vidal at a plus 165 is not bad for parlayable as well. Bantamweight division is okay. 29 years old versus 26. Tamires Vidal is very young. We have to mention, though, that her overhand right and like striking sloppiness, striking into a takedown, is not the best look for a UFC fighter at the most elite division. Considering that this fight is going to be a close fight and most likely go to the distance, I think Joselyne Edwards has to keep this fight standing. She has to keep this fight, light her up on the feet, light her up with the leg kicks, light her up with everything, light her up with all of her striking. She doesn't really use her hands. She uses a lot of her leg kicks, and I think she should be able to win this fight by unanimous decision comfortably. If she does get taken down, she has terrible get-up game. So if you want to sprinkle a dog like Tamires Vidal, you can. But I'm going to go Joselyne Edwards La Pantera to beat Bowling Ball Tamires Vidal by unanimous decision. Majority Tapology is agreeing with me. And we can't miss out on the over 2.5, guys. Over 2.5 for all 3 women MMA fights. It's a discount. It's a bargain. Let's get it. Brad Katona versus Jean Matsumoto. Let me get a sip of my juice. Brad Katona is a 2-time Ultimate Fighter winner. Has a good resume, mobile striker, good full work. Makes great decisions to wrestle. Then, when he needs to, he's coming off of the bounce back win over Jesse Butler, where he had an all-in wrestling clinic. Amazing win against Jesse Butler. And Brad Katona wrestled Jesse Butler hard. Jean has a black belt. Very good Muay Thai for Jean Matsumoto. Good stance. If he ends up on the bottom, he stays busy. He does get hit. He's tough. Has a bunch of cardio. Coming off of a sub win over Dan Argueta, who Dan Argueta took him down 9 times. But then he found the ghillie. We know Dan Argueta just lost to Cody Haddon. And if Dan had more cardio, he would have and could have beat Brad. If Dan Argueta had more cardio, he could have beat Jean Matsumoto. But he fell into that guillotine hard. One thing we have to mention is Brad is the exact same type of guy to play spoiler. But I'm going to pick Jean because if he lets his hands go, he has a lot of success. If you make Brad work, you can tell Brad isn't a good wrestler. Not as good as Dan Argueta. Especially not as good as Dan Argueta. Brad has lost to Garrett Armfield because of Garrett's volume. And more of the same can happen here. A lot of hype on Jean, but we have to be careful because Brad has no problem to grapple for 15 minutes, and he could win. But the plus 3.5 is good because this probably goes the distance as well. When we look at this fight, we have to mention that Jean Matsumoto is undefeated. He almost lost his last fight to Dan Argueta, but he was able to find a good submission choke after getting taken down 9 times. Plus 190 for the Canadian Brad Katona, who just absolutely put on a wrestling clinic on Jesse Butler. Prior to that, he lost to Garrett Armfield by volume. And what I'm thinking is maybe Jean Matsumoto can put up the same performance. Maybe he can have more volume, use his Muay Thai stance, use his high Muay Thai stance, maybe get taken down once, get right back up, use an intense amount of volume, put the pressure on a guy like Brad Katona, and make him work. Make Brad Katona make him shoot telegraph takedowns and do something almost like Royval did. Always work, always explode, always use your striking, use your phenomenal footwork, and get right back up. As soon as you get back up, keep striking, and put the pressure on a guy like Brad Katona. I think he should be able to win this fight, and I'm going to go Jean Matsumoto to win this fight by unanimous decision, 29-28, 30-27, and 29-28. It might even be a split decision, so be careful with a guy like Brad Katona because he could wrestle for a hard 15-fought minute and just win this fight by unanimous decision. So one of the best underdogs by far so far is Brad Katona, but I'm going to go Jean Matsumoto for my early pick. Let's get it. Matheus Nicolau versus Almabayev. I like this guy, Almabayev. He almost reminds me a little bit of Ramazan Temirov. A little bit. Not too much. 19-4-0 for Matheus Nicolau. 20 wins, 2 losses, and 0 draws for Almabayev. Number 15 in the flyweight division versus number 10. Brazil versus Kazakhstan. 30 years old to 31. Flyweight division 5'6" to 5'4", 66-65. The flyweight division is getting interesting in my opinion. This is what I wrote. Matheus Nicolau versus Almabayev. Then we have Matheus Nicolau, who's doing everything he can in his power to stay relevant. And I know this sounds bad, but he's on the downslope. He's a good, clean striker, very technical, very good grappling, but no chin whatsoever. Even though he had 10 takedowns in 7 of his UFC wins, in order to get the takedown, he needs to strike. And you need a chin in order to strike. His chin is terrible. Unfortunately, Royval put him on a silver platter. Who remembers when Matheus Nicolau's girlfriend, Luana Pinheiro, was in the corner of the Royval fight, and Luana Pinheiro screams really loud when she sees her boyfriend get flatlined. He's taking on Almabayev, who is a dominant grappler, who also has flashy striking, spinning attack here and there, big giant takedowns, doesn't really go for subs, but he's really strong. Sets a nice pace, coming off of his 3rd UFC win over Jose Johnson. Asu is a minus 162 right now, favorite. I know Matheus is getting KO'd, and Asu isn't a KO artist, but he can knock people out. Nobody will be surprised if Nicolau goes to sleep again. Asu wins this fight 9 times out of 10. Minus 162 is a bargain. Why is there a discount? I don't know, but I'll take it. I'm getting all the notifications for all the people. All the MMA cappers are uploading their videos. I'm about to upload my video right now. Shout out to Pick'em and shout out to AJ. He called Royval and he called Money Moicano. That was insane, bro. Respect, man. Respect. Matheus Nicolau has the chin of an absolute baby. And you need a little bit of chin in order to strike for a little bit and then mix in the takedowns. Majority of his wins come from getting the takedowns. I know he's a very good technical striker. And if we cancel out his chin and we take it out the if factor, it's a more competitive fight than a lot of people think. But in my opinion, Almabayev at a minus 185, you're not going to get this again. If he wins this fight, you're going to see Almabayev at a minus 330, at a minus 200, at a minus 400 later on in his UFC career. I think this is a little bit of a changing of the guard. 65-inch reach to 66. Matheus Nicolau could be the longer fighter, could show that he has a little bit of a good reach, show his jab, show his phenomenal footwork outside the cage. But I think Almabayev should be able to finish this fight. If not inside the distance, he could win a comfortable 15-minute hard-fought decision. I'm going to go Almabayev, and I'm going to go by submission or decision to win this fight. If by decision, 29-28 after losing the first round, because we know Matheus Nicolau is a phenomenal striker. At the end of the day, he has everything you need to become a flyweight champion. The only thing is his chin is very questionable. And I kind of feel bad for Matheus Nicolau because Matheus Nicolau was a guy that I thought was going to be a contender and a future flyweight champ. I really thought he was better than what he came out to be. Darren Elkins versus Daniel Pineda. We're already on the main card. Are you guys excited? Are you guys excited for this fight? This card has only 11 fights. Main card's only 5 fights deep. We need one more fight if we can. If we can't, that's fine. Opener of a main card, Darren the Damage. Just look at his chest. He has it tattooed and carved into his chest. Taking on Daniel Pineda. Darren Elkins is the dog. I don't know why, but he's very, very tough. He's always live for a finish, comes forward, cuts off the distance, heavy strikes, great wrestler, incredible top pressure. He's coming off that sub win over TJ Brown where he had 5 takedowns. He's not young, but Daniel Pineda isn't young either. He's 39. He's a feast or famine fighter. He's only been to 2 decisions in his 44-fight career. Bro, 2 decisions in your whole career is insane for 44 fights. He comes out incredibly fast, dangerous, for about 3 minutes. Almost like Angelo from We Want Picks in the Bed or The Clown Show. He quickly fades, and then he can finish shortly after. So it sounds a lot like Angelo or The Clown. You know, these guys start off really fast for 3 minutes in the bed, and then they finish in 15 seconds? So one thing we want to mention is that a guy like Daniel Pineda is like that. He starts off 3 minutes, and then his essential burst of energy is all wasted, and he's done. So that's what he got for 3 minutes. He got a gas tank for 3 hard, solid minutes. He's coming off the loss to Nathaniel Wood where he was dropped and he only went 1-6 in takedown attempts. They're both old. But the fact that you were only able to get 1 takedown out of 6 attempts on a guy like Nathaniel Wood, we know Nathaniel Wood is pretty good, but we know that means that your wrestling is not as good as we thought it would be. Daniel, even then, he might fade. My only concern is Daniel Pineda wrestling Elkins hard early in the first round, but then even then he might fade. Should be able to take over if he loses the first round. I took Elkins at a plus 102. He's a plus 114 right now on FanDuel, so I took him. One thing I want to mention, though, is that Daniel Pineda is going to start out fast. If he finishes a guy like Darren Elkins in the first round, it's a possibility, but is it likely? I don't think so. I'm going to go Darren Elkins, the Damage, the dog, to win this fight by unanimous decision after losing the first round. Definitely losing the first round on all judges' scorecards and then coming back at the 2 and 3. I wouldn't be surprised if Daniel Pineda gasses really hard in the second and third round. His takedown defense is okay, but Darren Elkins is going to be shooting takedowns on a guy like Daniel Pineda. So it's going to be a scrambling fest and a battle of the old men. 40 years old to 39. These guys are really, really old. 71 to 69-inch reach. I'm going to go Darren Elkins to win this fight. Majority Tapology is going Darren Elkins as well. If you want to go Daniel Pineda, you could go KO. Maybe he gets a first-round KO. But I'm going to go Elkins to win this fight after losing the first round and then wrestling hard in the second and third round. Should be a fun fight. Give me the damage Elkins to win this fight. Brady Hiestand versus Jake Hadley. Now this one's going to be crazy. Brady Hiestand with the 6 stash, looking like a fireman out there. Other than the stash looking good, he's a good-looking guy himself. Pause. Good wrestler. As well as he has really good control time. His boxing is okay, but his scrambles are plenty of cardio, coming off of a win over Garrett Armfield, where he was dropped and almost finished, but then he gutted it out and got the sub. He's taking on little baby Jake Hadley. This guy is a striker. Slick BJJ, solid boxing, good timing on the feet, then some decent takedowns and aggressive BJJ if he gets you on the ground. Hadley has had titles in multiple regional promotions. He can strike. He has good grappling, but he can stick to a high pace for 15 minutes, and we saw that in his last fight against Colin Loughran. He is a little small. He's coming off of the upset win over Colin Loughran, where he had the striking volume and stayed off the cage pretty well. A lot of people will believe that Jake Hadley is better than he actually is, but Brady, I don't know. Honestly, that was more of Colin Loughran not having IQ. Brady has showed us he has slick takedowns, and he's a minus 158 right now. He should be able to dominate this fight. That's exactly what I wrote. In my opinion, I think it's going to be a close fight on the feet, but I think if it gets to the ground, a guy like Brady Hiestand is incredible in his grappling department. Not only is he incredible in his grappling department, this guy Jake Hadley used to fight at flyweight, and then he's moving up to bantamweight. I chose Colin Loughran in the last fight against Jake Hadley, and Jake Hadley looked amazing. So we know a lot of people are going to be saying, oh, Jake Hadley's a lot better than we think he is. And there's going to be a lot of hype on Jake Hadley. But in my opinion, give me Brady Hiestand, bam, to win this fight at minus 155, minus 156. I'll take him. He has a longer reach. And his grappling edge is by miles. He's miles ahead in the grappling department against a guy like Jake Hadley. I don't know in the BJJ department, but we saw a guy like Brady Hiestand get dropped by Garrett Armfield and then still pull off a rear naked choke. That was one of the most impressive wins I've ever seen from Brady Hiestand, and a guy like Garrett Armfield should feel no shame losing that fight because that was an intense fight. That fight could have went either way. So the fact that this guy gutted it out and pulled it out the gutter, give me Brady Hiestand to win this fight by unanimous decision or submission. It's going to be a close fight. Majority Tapology has 64 for Hiestand and 36 for Hadley. Baby Jacob Hadley. I don't think he's going to win this Saturday. We'll see. Give me Brady Hiestand to win that fight by unanimous decision. Sumudaerji versus Charles Energy Johnson. If you see Charles Johnson interviews, this guy's a show-off, bro. This guy was in Joshua Van. He follows Joshua Van on Twitter, bro. And after every single post that Joshua Van posts, this guy, Charles Johnson, is under every single post putting the fire emoji. He's literally on Twitter putting the fire emoji under every single post of Joshua Van. Imagine you were fighting. You fight Charles Johnson. You get knocked out. And every single post that I post on Twitter, this guy's under my tweet, posting the fire emoji. Joshua Van posts that he's going to fight Edgar Shires. Fire. Joshua Van posts that he's going to go to 310. And he's going to fight. Fire emoji. Get the fuck out of my fucking comments, motherfucker. You just knocked me out. What the fuck? Like, Charles Johnson is that guy who's going to rub it in your face. He's that cocky motherfucker who's just going to keep coming forward. Intense pressure. And a guy like Charles Johnson could rub people the wrong way. If you hear his interviews, bro, he sounds like a guy who thinks that he's better than he actually is. And maybe that's why he's gone so far in the UFC. He's 5-4 in the UFC, though. One thing I want to say is Sumudaerji versus Charles Johnson. Sumudaerji, laser accuracy, intense speed, solid volume. Not too much power, but speed is on his side. Great in and out style. He can put a decision on notice. And an impressive 100% takedown accuracy for Sumudaerji. But he only has one takedown in his entire UFC career. Coming off the submission loss to Tim Elliott, where he was taken down and then subbed in the first round. Taking on Charles Johnson. Busy technical striker, really good hand speed, high output. Almost 5 significant strikes per minute, which is very impressive. He is 5-4 in the UFC, but all 4 losses are to quality fighters who turned into wrestlers. He's really active. He's been busy. He's looking for his 4th win in 2024. I expect Johnson to take over as this fight goes on. He is a dog. He survived an onslaught of Maximum in the Maximum fight, and then he took over. Let's see how this goes. Charles Johnson is a beast, and if you're going to fade him, you better be careful, because I faded Charles Johnson in the past before, And this guy, Charles Johnson, is a money maker. Charles is the pick, and I'm confident for his 4th win in 2024. Shout out to the guys who are fighting 4 times in 2024. This guy is one of them, probably one of the only UFC fighters fighting 4 times in the 2024 and getting a 4-fight win streak in 2024. If he can win this fight on Saturday. Minus 210 for Charles Johnson versus the plus 170 Sumudaerji. Sumudaerji lost to Matt Schnell by triangle, and then he lost to Tim Elliott. We know Matt Schnell is not that good. We know Matt Schnell is terrible, and if you're losing to a guy like that, we know that was a very close fight, and he almost won that fight, but that's a bad look. Bad look. Give me Charles Johnson to dance around him for 15 minutes and whoop his ass and maybe even knock him out. If he knocked out a guy like Joshua Van, he can definitely knock out a guy like Charles Johnson. I mean, he could definitely knock out a guy like Sumudaerji, who has been dropped before and rocked and wobbled it by Matt Schnell. Sumudaerji is going to be the younger fighter, 72-inch reach, so he's going to have a reach advantage. He's not going to be the taller fighter, though. Charles Johnson is going to be the taller fighter, more rangier, more slick in his boxing, more slick in his Muay Thai, and I think Charles Johnson should be able to get his 4th win in 2024. Impressive win over Azat Maximum, and then another win over Jake Hadley, who's fighting this card, and then Joshua Van KO. You can't make a better flyweight resume than this. Excuse me. You can't make a better flyweight resume than that. He's putting up together a good win streak. So, with my respect, as much as I don't like Charles Johnson, the way he talks, I'm going to take Charles Johnson to win this fight by unanimous decision. And I think majority of Tapology thinks that he could win by KO or decision. Maybe a sub could fit in there, considering Sumudaerji has been sub before. But Charles Johnson is not known for his submissions. He's known for his knockouts or for decisions. So give me Charles Johnson to win this fight after a hard-fought 15-minute performance of the night battle. I think Charles Johnson could definitely get the performance of the night. If he dances against Sumudaerji and even gets a KO, he could definitely get a fight of the night bonus. Rob Font versus Kyler Phillips. One thing we have to say is Rob Font versus Kyler Phillips is going to be a banger fight. These guys look crazy. Kyler Phillips has long hair and he has a beard. And Rob Font looks like he's getting older day by day. Rob Font is a gritty, tough, technical, solid chin. Not amazing, but it's good chin for his age. He has a good jab. He doesn't have a lot of power. Primarily a boxer. No kicks, but his hands are fast, clean, and fantastic. Volume is at an almost high, as 6 significant strikes landed per minute. Decent takedown defense, hit by fewer than 4. He's coming off of a loss to Figgy, where he was taken down 4 times. He's taking on Kyler Phillips. Very diverse striker, very well-rounded fighter, always moving, phenomenal footwork, great at fighting, great at mixing it up, and he's willing to slug it out. He has 3 performances of the night bonuses, and overall a very well-rounded guy with plenty of cardio that he weaponizes to his own utility. He's coming off of that win over Pedro Munoz, where the striking volume was incredible. Rob Font is part of the New England Cartel gym. The New England Cartel fall-off gym needs to be studied. Honestly, Rob Font and Calvin Kattar at one point were phenomenal strikers. That name meant something, but they didn't evolve. They used to be better. They used to be phenomenal strikers, and they used to put together phenomenal win streaks. Now, New England Cartel is known for their terrible defense. England Cartel, if you want to beat them, somebody from the New England Cartel just shoot a takedown. That's what's going to happen here. Kyler will be the faster fighter. He will be able to mix in some takedowns, mix in some wrestling, make Rob look old, and get a bunch of takedowns. What happened to Kattar and Rob Font? High-level strikers, and nothing happened to the evolution at all in grappling. That was a lot to say, a lot to read. One thing I have to mention is that Rob Font has a takedown defense of a baby calf. You can take him down with a takedown across the cage, and this guy will still give up that takedown. This guy is gonna get cut from the UFC, bro. Look at his last 5. Jose Aldo loss. Marlon Chito Vera loss. Beat Adrian Yanez by KO. How bad is Adrian Yanez? Corey Sandhagen lost, and then he lost to Davison Figueiredo. He's probably gonna have like 3 more fights and then get cut from the UFC. Kyler Phillips, minus 280, rightfully so. 37 years old to 29, 135 to 135, 5'8 to 5'8, 71-inch reach to 72. Kyler Phillips had a phenomenal performance against Pedro Munoz. Outworked him, cleaned him, outstriked him, was dancing around him on the outside, uses the cage, to not touch he doesn't touch his back against the cage at all. Give me Kyler Phillips to win this fight by unanimous decision, if not knockout. But we know Kyler Phillips is not a guy known for knockout. He can get a submission by triangle armbar here and there. But more likely, more so than ever, he's going to win a unanimous decision. Give me Kyler Phillips, the Matrix, to win this fight by unanimous decision after dancing around Rob Font and being too quick, too smooth, and too clean for a guy like Rob Font. Rob Font has good jab, but I think a guy like Rob Font would need to throw in some leg kicks in order to stop Kyler Phillips' movement. But he doesn't throw leg kicks at all. So give me Kyler Phillips to win this fight by unanimous decision. Main event time. Michel Pereira versus Anthony Hernandez. Michel Pereira versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Now, we have a main event right here. We have a beautiful main event. This is a great main event. Great fight. Both are on a solid win streak. Very different win streaks, and they fight very differently as well. And we're going to find out who deserves to have the higher ranking, because they're ranked 13 and 14. Let's start with the dog, the 14th ranked Michel Pereira. Absolute beast. The majority of his career was at 170, but he kept missing weight. They kicked him out the weight class, and now he's at 185. And he has 3 dominant wins in a row, even though he has 42 professional fights. This guy's only 31 years old. He looks old, but this guy is not near old at all. He's got plenty of career ahead of him. Powerful hands, solid wrestling, solid BJJ, incredible athleticism. His athleticism was put on full display in his last fight where he absolutely ragdolled Ihor Potierra. And then he did a backflip onto his body and then subbed him. Like, that was insane. He did a backflip on Ihor Potierra and then subbed him. That was amazing. He's taking on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. He's a good grappler. He averages almost 7 takedowns per fight. Solid wrestling, real entries. He is a BJJ black belt, and although he is willing to strike, that's not his path to victory. He's riding a 5-fight win streak, with the most recent win being a submission win over dangerous striker Roman Kopylov, who just beat Cesar Almeida. Anthony Hernandez is definitely good. I see how people can favor Michel Pereira to win because of his flashy striking. Fluffy Hernandez needs to grapple. He probably can't match the speed or power from Michel Pereira. He has to hold Pereira gasses, and Pereira has gassed before, early in his career against Tristan Cannoli. Now, years later, he has plenty of decisions, and we've seen him strike and be more dynamic and dangerous. But I'm going to go Fluffy Hernandez by submission. Anthony Hernandez is a high-level black belt. Rodolfo Vieira fight put Anthony Hernandez on the map, and he got the shit kicked out of him. He stayed tough and ended up winning that fight. He's always in shape, and he doesn't quit. One thing we have seen from Michel Pereira is if he gets tired and he's doing all that dancing around you, he gets tired in 3-round fights. A guy like Anthony Hernandez should have way better cardio. We have to mention the striking department, how there's going to be a big discrepancy in the striking department. How a guy like Michel Pereira is going to be faster, more dynamic, more explosive, and he could have amazing takedown defense for the entire fight. But what I'm banking on is a guy like Anthony Fluffy Hernandez winning over Roman Kopylov. Does Roman Kopylov beat Michel Pereira? I know MMA math doesn't always work, but does Roman Kopylov beat Michel Pereira? I think he does. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't. But one thing we have to mention is Anthony Hernandez has finished almost all of his entire last fights except for one. And that was his decision over Josh Frem, who his fat ass couldn't make weight to fight Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Dude, we gotta punish Josh Frem. We either gotta cut Josh Frem from the UFC or we gotta make him like eat a salad or something. We gotta punish that guy. Anthony Hernandez, Fluffy Hernandez is gonna be the pick for me. At a minus 160, this is a close fight. Pay attention to Michel Pereira. And if you get him at a big plus money, you better jump on him. Because a guy like Michel Pereira could be a live betting favorite after the first round. If he's defending a bunch of takedowns and Anthony Fluffy Hernandez is looking atrocious in the striking department, a guy like Michel Pereira is going to look like he's going to cruise his way to a hard-fought decision. We've never seen either of these guys go 5 rounds before. It's going to be their first 5-round fight in the UFC. And majority Tapology is going to be favoring Pereira to win by KO. I'm going to go Fluffy Hernandez. And I know this is going to be a very crazy pick. My early pick is going to go Fluffy Hernandez by submission. One thing we have to mention is Michel Pereira has way more experience. And him being an underdog, you better take him now because he might be a favorite by the end of the week. And with all that being said, Anthony Hernandez has a little bit of a 2-inch reach advantage. Not going to say much considering he's a more heavy grappler. And Michel Pereira should be able to put on a good performance for the first 5 minutes to maybe 10 minutes. But we've seen a guy like Anthony Hernandez able to grapple hard against a guy like Roman Kopylov, who maybe doesn't have the best takedown defense, but he was able to submit a guy like Roman Kopylov. Both of these guys are finishers. I don't see this fight going the distance at all. And I see a guy getting finished within the first 3 rounds. Whether it's Michel Pereira getting the finish over Anthony Hernandez, or it's Anthony Hernandez finding the sub over Michel Pereira, it's going to be a great fight. Give me Michel Pereira by sub. I just fucked up. Give me Anthony Hernandez by submission after a hard-fought 10 minutes. After defending a couple of takedowns, I think Michel Pereira should be able to defend a couple of takedowns, but after a relentless amount of pressure, relentless amount of takedowns, I'm going to take Anthony Fluffy Hernandez to win this fight. I know Majority Tapology has Pereira to win, especially by knockout, considering he's won almost all of his fights inside the distance, other than Andre Fiallo, Santiago Ponzinibbio split decision, and then he beat Andre Prochaska by KO, beat Michael Lajacek by submission, and then beat Iho Potillera. But if we look at his last 3 wins, his last 3 wins are nowhere near the pinnacle of Anthony Hernandez's wins. Honestly, Edmund Shabazian, maybe you can say that he's not that good as we all thought he would be. Marc-Andre Barrio, we see that guy's pretty impressive, especially if you're able to finish a guy like that. That's pretty impressive. Josh Frem, we know that guy's trash. And Rodolfo Vieira, his most impressive win by far after he got his ass completely whooped. And then he was able to tough it out and get a submission win. Arman guillotine choke. One of the best skill sets of submissions I've ever seen. So give me Anthony Hernandez to win this fight by submission. If not submission, unanimous decision, 48-47. I think this fight ends inside the distance. If it doesn't end inside the distance, I'm going to be very impressed. I hope you guys enjoyed this card. I hope you guys enjoyed this full fight breakdown. Let's get it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Give me Fluffy Hernandez to win this fight by submission. Let's get it. Peace. Let me know if you guys want that Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria UFC 308 breakdown. Let's get it. Should be out soon. Let's go.